Hello and welcome to part 15 of my F1 2016 career mode for here for Singapore. There you saw the tyre allocation, which was balanced.
Hey, good to see you again. The factory sent over the parts that were looking good on the rig. They're being fitted as we speak. Have a look at the report.
So there's our new upgrade. Here, just arrived in time for the Singapore Grand Prix. It's the fuel. It's a new fuel efficiency upgrade, which would help us. So potentially we can run in rich mix for longer. But we're still third in the vehicle performance comparison order. And it looks like Manor Racing Team still haven't made a single upgrade this season. So we're going to seize R&D immediately to maximise the resource points for Season 2. But track acclimatisation, we got a few greens in there, which wasn't the greatest lap I've ever done on track acclimatisation. Time management, we near to perfected that. And qualifying pace, we exceeded the target of the team's goals. And team objectives, we got all of them apart from one, which are like, there's no point of getting the other one because like I'm only gonna run one setup.
Practice session
So,
there, then. Let's
there's a
remind
practice
ourselves of the
3
top
results.
Who are Raikkonen?
Very
Sainz.
interesting to note that
The
Kimi
sky is dark
Raikkonen
and the lights
finished
are
top on soft.
Welcome to qualifying here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore. It always looked like the kind of track that asks an awful lot of the rear tyres, such as the frequency of low-speed exit.
So I'm going to go out on a run on the ultra soft tyre because it seems that tyre is significantly faster than any of the other tyres. So we're going to fly around the last corner. Got a bit too much curb there. That could cost us slightly, but won't be too much. And cutting to the end of our qualifying lap, where will it put us on the grid? It's P1. So apparently a 1 minute 41.4 is a quick time against the Ultimate AI. But we went out for one more run at the end of the session, and here we start it. We're already a couple of hundreds up, and I just wanted to show you this because I wanted to see what happened when I crashed into that wall with excessive force. And it turns out the wheel tether failed. That's what it seems to be, because the wheel should get tethered, but it just flies off our car and decides and has a mind of its own and rolls down all the way to turn 7. And coming to the end of the quali lap, we missed out because of that last curb. That cost us by a few hundredths, but we've got pole for the Singapore Grand Prix.
So qualifying is complete and we're all set for an exciting race tomorrow. Your top 3 are a Haas, Raikkonen and Sebastian Vettel. The grid is set then, so that just
Ultimate
leaves the race
AI,
itself.
like
Join
I
us
said,
tomorrow, where we'll be live
in
with all the action.
last
Until then,
few
it's
episodes.
goodbye.
There's our lap times. There's Kimi Raikkonen's lap times from Scuderia Ferrari. Just constantly checking the comparison of the lap times to see where time was won and lost. But
Hello and welcome one and all to the shining streets of Singapore. Can you believe we've been coming here for nearly a decade now? It feels like only yesterday that Felipe Massa was dragging his fuel hose down the pit lane in that eventful opening race, and in a Grand Prix won from pole position more often than not. Will we see a new victor crowned today? Situated just 88 miles north of the equator, this 3.5-mile circuit is hot, it's humid, and is an incredible test for the drivers as they try to fight their cars around the bumps and in between the barriers. 23 corners take us twice over the bay to complete a single lap of this unique racetrack. The view is spectacular, the heat is unbearable. The race should be incredible. Anthony Davidson is alongside me in the commentary box this evening. And big race this one, a real test of endurance. Sounds right up your alley. Wouldn't you just love to be down there on the grid right now?
You know what, Crofty? I'm pretty happy to be up here in my air conditioning, thank you, right now. I can't stress just how difficult these conditions can be, especially when you consider it's the longest race on the calendar in terms of time. It's also one of those races where you have to remember to keep drinking, or there's a real risk of dehydration, just like we saw with young Kevin Magnussen a couple of years ago, don't forget. We mentioned the bumps as well. Take a look at the onboards if you get a chance during this race. The movement in the suspension and the chassis is just incredible, and it's lots of hard work to wrestle the car around a lap here.
We're in a very good position today. Let's see if we can do.
So here we are on the grid, sat in pole position on the ultra
So before
soft
the
tyre.
off,
So,
let's
and
remind
here's the
ourselves of
starting
yesterday's
grid.
qualifying session with a look at the starting grid. It's Haas in pole position then, and Kimi Raikkonen completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Grosjean, Lewis Hamilton, and Perez, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Verstappen, and Felipe Massa, Rosberg, Bottas, Daniel Kvyat, and Sainz, Nasser, Alonso, Jenson Button, and Jolyon Palmer, Magnussen, and Harry Anto, Marcus Ericsson, and Pascal Wehrlein completes the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So, the race strategy says 2 stops. And at the time, I didn't actually see this at the time, but look at the weather forecast. That is a lot, that is fluctuating if I've ever seen it. But 5 lights and away we go for the Singapore Grand Prix. Absolutely got amazing acceleration off the grid there, and we're not troubled into turn 1 whatsoever. So, and hopefully we can pull away, but I hope we get back. I hope someone brings the fight to us. And that's just on the replay here to see what happened with the Ferraris and cars behind us. Almost made contact, the 2 Ferraris did, but so at the time I was completely oblivious to if it was going to rain or not, so I was pushing as hard as I could to pull away and break out the DRS window before lap 3. So for all you know, I could have, like, this race could go horrendously wrong, because we could pit 1 lap before the rain begins. So, unless our engineer notifies us, of course, but don't find the engineer to be particularly... Okay, no, the engineer is pretty useful on this game, but it's on Grand Prix mode and everything like that, it is the engineer is completely useless, does not do anything, but on career mode, he's probably the most useful guy around, apart from the R&D guy. But coming through turn 23 now, onto lap 2, obviously we're going to go purple because we're in the lead. We've already broken out the 1 second DRS window, so that's interesting to note. Purple again on lap 2, obviously. Now we're just setting quite consistent laps in the 1 minute 45s. And again, just pulling a gap out on the Ferraris and mostly Raikkonen, and coming through to lap 6. Now the cars behind us came into the pits, so that is a very interesting call by Mercedes and Ferrari. Who's going to come out on top? Lewis Hamilton has jumped Raikkonen in the pits, and our team, the Haas team, are 1-2 in this Grand Prix, as Grosjean goes up the inside of Perez, I think that is, and quite a nice move by our teammate. But I don't know if the AI knew the rain was coming, but a couple of laps ago my engineer notified me to say the rain was coming within 10 minutes time. So we stayed out, and just look how warm that front right tyre is. And I'm starting to feel a bit of understeer, and now I'm feeling a massive understeer. And when your engineer tells you to come into the pits for inters, that's the cue to come into the pits. for Inters, obviously. But just about slowed down, dude. That could have ended disastrously, and we could have potentially got a drive-through penalty. Just going to look on the replay how close we got to that inside wall, and did we actually slow down in time for the pit limiter? Because it was nip and tuck. Okay, no, that's not the right phrase to use, but almost ran out wide onto the circuit itself, which could have ended horribly. But it looks like we just about, like, I mean, 1,000 to the nearest 1,000th of a second. If that was 1,000ths later, we would have got a drive-through penalty. But we're going to go on to the intermediate tyres, and don't forget heavy rain's approaching soon. But do keep in mind that I was completely oblivious to this at the time. So, because I forgot to read the weather forecast before the race, which was a bit of an error, because it could, like I keep saying, it could have ended horribly wrong. DRS disabled, that's another cue to pit for intermediates if you're halfway around a lap. But mainly pit when the engineer tells you to.
Sorry, we can't provide you with that information.
Now, at the end of lap 17, the engineer was he was trying to persuade me into coming into the pits for a set of wet tyres, but I wasn't having any of it, so despite the fact that it looks like you should be on wet tyres, I'm going to stay out on intermediate tyres. I know the quote from Ayrton Senna says you need to be on the right tyre at the right time, but I feel as though we could gain something out of this, because the heavy rain's not lasting for that long, according to the weather forecast. So as you can see, Sainz and Bottas are on wets, so they've obviously come into the pits for wet tyres, and they should be reeling us in at a vast rate of knots, and
Just not sure we're on the right ones for the conditions anymore.
they could catch up. They could catch us, and we could be in trouble. As you can see, teammate is in the pit, so our teammate's going onto the wet tyres. But I don't feel as though that's the right decision. I feel as though staying out is the right decision, because, like I said earlier on in the lap, the heavy rain's not lasting for that long. So this is either going to be one of the best strategic calls of this career mode, or it could be the worst. But the gap's about 37 seconds to the car behind, and at the end of lap 20, that's come down, and at the end of lap 20, it's come down again. So it's not coming down quick enough though. So potentially this could be the right strategy call. Now someone retired, and I don't know the reason behind it. So we're gonna flick through all the cars on the grid and attempt to find who retired from the Grand Prix. So, well, obviously he's not here. Gonna go full. No, that's different camera angle on the cars. So I'm gonna run board the McLarens, because this could be. Oh, it's quite a spectacular engine failure. You might not be able to see it that well because the engine failure merges in with the rain, but virtual safety car deployed because of it. This could help and aid us massively, because the track could get drier, but in the time this virtual safety car period goes over. But the virtual safety car lasted about 10 seconds before it came back in, but no, okay, before. And another engine failure for the Saubers, and our teammates got a puncture, so not having the best of races. That was nearly game over for us there, because we had to have relatively good reaction times to that, or otherwise we could have been that could have been our race done then and there. But nevertheless, keep an eye on the top corner of your screen, top left. Everyone's coming in for intermediate tyres. So our tyres, intermediate tyres, are not that worn at all. So this could be one of the best strategy calls of this career mode, and we've run spectacularly wide there.
You need to slow down before
And that was more cautious towards the pit limiter. And that's gained us a lot of time, and the cars behind us are already on dry, so they could gain a bit out of this, but not too much. They're not going to gain 37 seconds in one lap, or whatever the gap was. But come out on a set of ultra soft tyres to run to the end of this race, the softest of the 3 compounds available for this weekend, and we're just going to push as hard as we can until the end of this race. And we're going to see if this tyre is the right tyre to be on at the minute, and yes it is, because there's no understeer and we've got amazing turning. It feels so weird when you go from heavy rain to dry conditions, because the understeer in the wet conditions is sensational, but in the dry conditions there's no understeer pretty much, because we're on low fuel, which helps as well, because these ultra soft tyres are more biased towards low working ranges and slow twisty circuits, so the temperatures don't overheat and get too much load through the tyres. We've gone purple on the final lap, but for some reason it popped up on my screen saying Carlos Sainz is retired, and he has had an engine failure. That is so unlucky for the Toro Rosso driver, and that was very bright there, as you can see behind the Toro Rosso. But coming to the end of the last few corners of lap 31, coming through turn 20, and now the short straight, and now the last 2 corners coming through turns 22 and 23 now, and we're going to come over the line to win the most difficult race of the year in the Singapore Grand Prix.
everything we wanted today.
Brilliant stuff from Haas today. What a superb victory. Anthony, what do you think made the difference here?
The difference was clearly in the strategy. You could tell they'd done a lot of work on the pit wall to really optimise each stint and get the most out of the tyres. And it highlights just how much of a team sport this really is. But credit to the
Team were
drivers as well, though.
elated.
It's no good having a well-oiled machine behind the scenes without a talented hand on the wheel, of course.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be Haas picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for coming out on top in that amazing Grand Prix. And now let's take a look at the driver's standings.
Very
Well, the
nice
lead at the top
strategy
has
by
come
us
down
there,
after a
making
poor result. Our points
significantly
leader.
less stops
Now
than
then,
everyone
Anthony
else.
Davidson, who was your driver of the
Some
day?
people did
Well,
the
I think it
4
has to be
stops, some
Fernando
others did the
Alonso. He
5
got the strategy
stop
spot on and
strategy. That
consistently
is
had the
so
pace
many
come through
pit
as well.
stops.
And here's how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship.
But then again,
The
we
lead
only
at the top comes down
ran
after
on
a
the
strong
ultra soft,
weekend
then
from
the
challenging
intermediate,
pack.
and then the
Another
ultra
team that
soft
excelled
again.
Today was Williams, who makes further progress up the table.
Only got 2
It was
warnings
great
throughout that
having you
race
with
of
us
corner
this weekend.
cutting
I
and
hope you
1 for
enjoyed it as
exceeding
much
track
as we did.
limits.
Until next time, though.
So
goodbye.
clean race from us. We lapped our teammate again, just like in Italy. Drivers' Championship remains second. And as if you remember, we overtook Rosberg in the last episode. Constructors was still the same, I think. And resource points. Another set of resource points for being the first driver. The rivalry update. Oh. Hello. We've won the rivalry because we have absolutely annihilated Carlos Sainz in the rivalry and in that race. And I'll let you to enjoy the rest of this video. Like if you want to see more, it really helps me out and lets me know if you want to see more. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to bring Haas to the front. And goodbye.